ba kayo? Are you at home like us?
Ayan, sabi ni Rosalia from Manila daw. So, good afternoon po. And si Remalyn naman from Baguio. Ayan, good afternoon. Malamig po ba dyan?
Oo nga eh. Si Sofia naman, nandito rin lang siya sa Quezon City. And si Ryan nasa Negros Occidental.
Yes. And si Cheryl ay nasa Bacoor, Cavite. And si Kizaya naman ay nasa Davao del Norte. Grabe talaga yung nararating ng few webinars, Gabi. Sobrang layo na. No?
Totoo, from all over the Philippines. Sabi rin ni William, oo daw, grabe yung kidlat. I agree. Katatapos lang ng ulan. So I hope na stable yung internet connection nyo this afternoon because we're really, really excited to share with you what our guest resource speaker has for us this afternoon.
Yeah. Super exciting kasi for sure marami na naman tayong matututunan this afternoon. So ayan, sana kumapit yung mga internet natin.
I agree. And I think a lot of our learners can relate to our topic this afternoon. Diba? Feeling ko pagkatapos ng pandemic, ang daming nagtanong, para saan ba ako bumabangon? Diba, Joyce? Parang isa yun sa pinakamahirap sagutin na question. And I think this webinar will help them figure out kung para kanino or para saan nga ba sila bumabangon.
Tama, Gabi. Kasi syempre minsan ang hirap din sagutin no, na parang para saan, para kanino ba ako bumabangon. So I think itong webinar na to will really help us a lot.
Yes, and given most of the time we're at work, so 'di ba, parang ang ganda rin i-explore kung aside from it being our main source of income, what else does it mean to be at our work or doing our work? Ayan, so good afternoon, Wilfredo, si Mariel, si Mary Grace din. Paulan pa rin lang daw sa doon. Sana po hindi kayo mabasa. And sana hindi bumaha dahil alam naman natin na ang hirap mag-commute, di ba? Lalo na ngayon. I think we're seeing a lot of new names this afternoon, Joyce, no? So again, welcome to our free webinar series this October. We're gonna start in a few minutes. So if you have any friends or colleagues joining us this afternoon, sabihin nyo sa kanila na we still have room in our Zoom meeting so they can log in or they can register and join the meeting or pwede rin silang sumama sa atin via YouTube. Yan. So good afternoon, Yvonne, Charlene, Reynan. Aliana galing Ortigas, Pasig. Yan, so settle in. Kuha na kayo ng inumin. Kung gusto niyo ng mainit na kape while you're listening in our webinar. And also, don't forget to get your pen and paper so that you can take notes during this session. Ayan, Joyce, I think we're ready to start.
Yeah, okay, let's start, Gabi.
Yeah. Ayan, good afternoon, everyone. Again, welcome to Positive Workplaces free webinar. And this afternoon, we're going to talk about Hanap-BUHAY, meaning making through work.
Yeah, so to introduce lang kung sino po yung mga moderators ni for today. So I'm Joyce. I'm one of the Learning and Development Associates of Positive Workplaces. And here with me is my partner, Gabby Liangson. So Kami po yung LND Associates ng Positive Workplaces.
And we're so
Ayan.
happy to be with you this time.
Yeah, of course. And ayun, sana i-share niyo pa po sa iba niyong friends yung webinar link natin. And of course, here in Positive Workplaces, we co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. Kasi we believe na kailangan din namin kayo, hindi lang yung kami lang yung pwede mag-provide no yung pag-enhance ng well-being ng workforce. So, kailangan din namin kayo kasi kayo yung kasama namin dito. And next, of course, positive cultures are made through positivity ripple. So, yung positivity ripple na ginagamit ng positive workplaces, it starts with you. So, you lead the self, and to do this, you can always be intentional sa mga pakikinig ng mga webinars like this kasi it would really help you grow. And as you grow, you will also help to lead others. And ayan, and if we lead others, makaka-influence din tayo ng groups, and that would also lead to cultures that will also build positive workplaces.
Yes, Joyce, thank you for introducing us to the positivity ripples. And I'm sure yung mga regular attendees natin, kabisado na to by heart. And syempre dun sa mga bago nating attendees, now you know our framework and how we promote or how we do our work in enhancing the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And dahil nga importante sa amin ang leading the self, we always create these free webinars monthly just for you. And this afternoon or this October, we prioritize mental health. Kasi diba, sineselebrate natin every October ang World Mental Health Day. Yun yung naganap noong October 10. Pero syempre sa atin sa Positive Workplaces, month-long natin siya isa-celebrate. So this month, we are talking about putting me in mental health. So that's very leading the self. And that's parang the core to be able to boost positive work environments. So last week, you heard our Chief Wellbeing Officer, Nikki, talk about hawak kamay. So sa mga nakakaalala pa, ano yung helping skills na natutunan nyo? At ano yung components ng helping skills na yon? Kung maaalala nyo pa kung ano yon, pwede nyo ba siyang i-share sa chat box? Okay, so she talked about hawak kamay, practicing and building helping skills. And then this afternoon, we're going to have Mr. Kevin Ross Nera, and he will be talking about Hanap-BUHAY, meaning making through work. And next week, I will be talking about something very near and dear to my heart, which is milasakit, or cultivating self-compassion at work. So Joyce, before we start, I think we just have to give them a few reminders. So we hope that you have another device or just be ready to go to another link. Kasi we are going to use Mentimeter so that we can also engage you in this session. Sabi ko rin, kumuha kayo ng pen and paper for your notes dahil sa dami ng i-share ng resource speaker natin this afternoon, I know that you would find these concepts and insights very valuable. And we highly encourage engagement with the audience, but always be respectful, especially in our chat box. And of course, at the end of our webinar, we will be giving you the evaluation form. So ito ay i-issue lamang dun sa mga nasa Zoom room. So make sure that you are in the Zoom room for the entirety of the session. And don't forget, once you open that evaluation form, i-check nyo kung tama ba yung title ng form na sinasagutan nyo, and make sure that you type in your correct email address and tama yung spelling ng name nyo. Because we're shifting to online systems, so your certificates are already automatically generated.
Yes, and thank you for that, Gabby. So, syempre, para makita natin yung certificate, we can go to our inbox sa email na pinrovide po natin. And pag wala doon, you can check your spam folder kasi minsan napupunta rin doon yung mga emails ng Positive Workplaces. And ayun, for any concerns about evaluations or certificates, you may email us at engage@positiveworkplaces.org, and we will only be entertaining inquiries regarding evaluations and certificates up to 1 week after the event. So after po nun, hindi na po kami mag-i-issue pa ng certificate and hindi na namin yun i-entail.
Yes, thank you so much, Joy. So we hope that you take note of those reminders. And if you're all ready, can you please put a thumbs up in the chat box para we can now introduce to you our resource speaker this afternoon. So sa lahat ng ready, isang thumbs up naman dyan sa chat box.
Ayan, mukhang ready na sila, Gabby.
Yes, kitang-kita nga natin na ready. Hindi lang pala sa chat box, sorry, may mga nag-react din pala. So it's really my pleasure to introduce to you our resource speaker this afternoon. So Kevin finds joy in serving the Filipino people by empowering development practitioners and business professionals to succeed in the work that they do. He learns new things daily and views work as a playground to try new things, fail forward fast, and design humane experiences by iteration. Before becoming a freelance consultant, he worked for 7+ years in the civil service, spending the past 5 years as HR lead and strategy management officer at the office of the Vice President, Lenny Robredo. So without further ado, our resource speaker this afternoon to talk about Hanap-BUHAY, meaning making through work, is Mr. Kevin Ross D. Nera. So let's give Mr. Nera a warm round of applause.
Okay, hi everyone, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay, so if you can hear me and you can see my screen, kindly type switch on sa ating chat so that we'll know if we're all on the same page. Ayan, sige. So maraming salamat. So good afternoon everyone. Again, I'm Kevin and I'm happy to be here to share my experience and insights with everyone today. Ayan. I'm happy, napaka-active ng ating chat. Sige. Okay, so the title of today's discussion is Hanap-BUHAY, Making Meaning Through Work. And over the course of the next hour and a half, we'll be discussing ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng buhay dito sa Hanap-BUHAY. Okay, so as a brief overview, ano yung magiging journey natin ngayong araw? There are 3 questions that I'm trying to answer in the discussion. First is why, no? Bakit? Bakit mahalaga na i-reframe natin yung pag-uunawa or understanding natin ng work or ng trabaho from something that is simply income generating, no? Hindi lang tayo naghahanap ng kita, but we're also making meaning, no? Naghahanap tayo ng buhay. So, gusto ko yung word in Filipino for work, which is work as hanap buhay. Ano nga ba yung hinahanap natin sa hanap buhay? Second is what? Ano nga ba yung mga meaning or pagpapakahulugan natin sa trabaho or hanap buhay na kapag tinignan natin yung kasalukuyan nating trabaho, no, ano nga ba yung kahulugan nito sa buong konteksto ng ating buhay? What does our present work mean in relation to our entire life? And one of the frameworks that I'll be sharing is called the 5C model. And the 5C model basically stands for the following C's. No? It could be work as a cause, as a chore, work as coast or coasting, or work could also be a form of calling or it could be a career. And later, we'll be discussing ano nga ba yung pinabanggit ni Franco dito sa kanyang 5C model. And then finally, I'll be discussing yung ating how. Here, I'll be presenting an alternative way of applying the 5C framework para makita doon sa lahat ng trabaho na meron tayo, alin yung mga partikular na activity or gawain doon sa ating work journey that could relate to our personal calling and our personal careers. So I'll be presenting the 5C model and 2 ways of applying it to make meaning out of our work. Okay, so are you excited? If you are, kindly type game in the chat. Okay. Yan. Okay. So maraming salamat po. So as Gabby mentioned earlier, I'll be inviting everyone to kindly go on to Menti. You can either type our Menti code or scan the QR code. And I'm asking everyone to go into Menti and answer the following question. No? So go back and reflect sa inyong trabaho. When was the last time you felt any of these things at work? No, you can describe the context. When was the last time that you felt meaningful, no? May kahulugan yung ating trabaho na ginagawa? Nakakaramdam ba tayo ng astonishment? Or when was the last time we felt wonder or pagkamangha dun sa ginagawa natin? Or when we learned something new? And finally, when was the last time that we felt that our work was life-giving or we felt alive in the work that we do? So you can describe your experiences in terms of doing the following, wherein you experience the following adjectives. Okay, so and okay, so I'm here at Menti. Okay, so okay, great. So meron nung 2018 pa yung last time. For some, netong kamakailan lang, just recently. For some, this week, yesterday. Okay, when I feel that I was challenged. So, mahalaga sa ating karanasan when we feel challenged in our work because that creates a certain sense of meaning for us. Okay. Okay, in OVP, when they were doing field work, meron din when they were working at DSWD. For some, you're sharing that nothing you can think of recently, no? And that's something that's very important, no? Because if our answer to this question, parang wala akong maisip na experience or karanasan, that may have an impact in terms of how we perceive our work and our energy. Okay, so let me go to our chat box. Okay, sige. For those who can't access the Menti, you can also type in the chat box yung mga experiences ninyo. Okay. So sige. So dito sa experiences that you shared, makikita natin for some, they are happy because they're able to experience it on a regular basis. While for others, baka matagal na yung huling pagkakataon na naramdaman nila yung similar experience. Okay. So let me go back to our slides. Ayan. So, in order for me to answer this question, I'd like to first begin by sharing my personal story. Right now, I'm performing an HR and strategy management role, but my initial journey or plan was very far from this. No? Hindi ko inisip na mapupunta ako kung saan ako ngayon. And let me share my story as far back as high school and even college. No? So, nung high school, one of my favorite subjects was math. No? I joined contest. I like doing it. No? It was basically fun for me. No? I think we're in the minority, but it was something na talaga nag-enjoy akong gawin. So much so that I took it up as my major in college. No? My initial course nung nag-aaral ako was applied mathematical finance. And for the first 2-3 years, no, nag-enjoy naman ako. I felt it was challenging. It was something I was interested in. I wasn't the best at it, but I was decent enough. No, it was something na makes use of my strengths, and I found na nag-enjoy akong gawin ito. And one of the main reasons why I pursued it as a major, syempre nung mga panahon na yun, hindi ko pa talaga alam ano yung plano ko sa buhay. I just knew na at least yung pitch sa amin, if you took on an applied math course, you'll get a competitive salary. And I was relatively okay with it. So sabi ko, why not? Let's try it. But when I was around third year, na-realize ko, teka, parang hindi ko ma-imagine yung sarili kong nagtatrabaho in the next 10 to 20 years in an office space, in a bank or in a financial institution, computing all sorts of things. No? Yes, it could be a very lucrative job, but na-realize ko, especially during my third and fourth year, parang hindi ito yung mga subjects na interesado kong gawin. And I noticed that my grades were going down. Not because I couldn't understand it anymore, but more of parang hindi ko na 'to gusto. Hindi ko na gustong yung ginagawa ko, and I felt that maybe I was meant for something else. And so nung fourth year college, nag-decide ako to shift out from my major, no? It was a big decision back then, especially graduating na dapat ako. I shifted to take philosophy, and I took on a lot of development study subjects. Kasi sabi ko, parang ito yung bagay na gusto kong gawin. No? Instead of imagining myself working at a bank or in a financial institution, parang yung calling ko at that time was serving the people. No? Of course, I was aware na the amount of income that I would generate if I shifted out would be way lower, especially if I didn't go to a multinational or an international organization. But I realized na I'm okay with taking a possible pay cut as long as I'm able to do something that I'm personally interested in. And back then, I really fell in love with philosophy. At sabi ko, I wanted to be a professor and contribute to nation building, to research and teaching, and engage in projects, especially with the government and the NGO. So this was around 2013, 2015. But life had other plans. No, there were things that happened, so I had to change course. And was as I was looking for a job, ang una kong binagsakan was something that totally wala siya sa plano ko. So I began as an administrative officer at the Commission on Higher Education K-12 unit. So at the time, ito yung K-12 transition, and there was the project management unit, and yung objective ng team namin was to support yung ating higher ed and senior high school faculty in terms of teaching the new students and teaching the new curriculum. So in my first role, I was an admin officer, and siguro first 3-4 months interesting siya for me kasi it was an entirely new experience and first time ko sa government, and I was learning about how things happen or things are implemented within the government setting. But yung role kasi was mainly processing paperwork, at handling logistics, which kaya kong gawin. Pero sabi ko sa sarili ko, teka, hindi ito yung bagay na talagang interest ko. And rather than being at the back end, I prefer speaking in front and being able to engage other people. So after 7 months, I requested to be transferred in the unit, and I took on a partnership role. It was still in the same project management unit, but the role that I took was different. And my role there in particular was I needed to form partnerships with other government institutions. Tapos yung government institution na yon yung mag-a-absorb ng mga faculty habang wala pa silang tinuturuan so that they could be eligible for grants. And at this point, professionally, malaking bagay siya because it helped hone my speaking and networking and partnership skills. And I was able to be exposed to a lot of different organizations. And I could appreciate how pitching to other people or organizations should be done to a case-to-case basis. Hindi pwedeng isang messaging lang yung ginagawa natin. Kasi iba yung kontekstong ginagalawan ng mga organizations that we're partnering with. After some time, siguro I think I was there for around 1.5 years in that role. And then sabi ko, parang okay ito, but I don't see myself doing this for a very long time. Baka meron pang ibang area in the government or in the development sector kung saan mas ma-maximize ko yung aking skills and strengths. And so after taking a brief break, was just less than 1 month, I started applying to different agencies, and fortunately, I got accepted to the office of the Vice President under VP Lenny. Around that time, pumasok ako February 2017. It was a day before Valentine's Day. I could distinctly remember it. And yung initial kong applyan dapat was for the program management. No? I wanted to be in the front line of conducting or implementing programs. However, yung pangangailangan at the time was someone to facilitate the ISO certification process. So the role that was available was more of institution building. And it wasn't something that I was already familiar with. But that was the role that was offered. And so sabi ko, sige, game, I'll try it out. And then I'll see where I'll go from there. Fortunately, I was able to learn on the job, and I was blessed with good mentors that helped me and supported me in that role until eventually we were able to achieve ISO certification back in 2017. Professionally, napaka-helpful niya kasi it helped me build my niche and develop a skill set na nakikita ko yung value for the organization and for my career as a whole. After some time, however, this was before the pandemic, no, bandang 2019, naisip ko, okay naman yung role na ginagawa ko right now, pero ito ba talaga yung gusto ko? No? So, ito yung mapapansin nyo in this entire journey. Lagi kong tinatanong yung sarili ko, is this really where I belong? Is this really what I want to do for the long term? And there I realized, parang meron pa akong related role na gusto at baka dapat dun ako. So, I requested to be transferred to the Human Resources Division. No, at the time, we were still a unit. And my interest there actually could be traced back to my previous interest. No? Interested ako to learn, interested ako sa training, interested ako to apply my research, and interested ako in the whole process of being able to know new things, learn new things, and support other people so that they could be the best version of themselves. Fortunately, yung role ko sa ISO certification had a performance management role. And there I realized na instead of looking at ISO certification as something that's separate from the human resources role, I realized that actually performance management is connected with other HR systems such as learning and development, recruitment, and competency-based human resources. So eventually everything panned out, no? And I was able to find or develop my own niche, no, and integrate all of these experiences. And then when I left the government service after almost 7+ years, now an independent consultant who's applying basically everything that I've learned throughout my entire work journey. And why did I share this? No? Bakit ko binabahagi yung kwento ko mula sa aking pag-aaral hanggang sa aking kasalukuyang lugar, no? Gusto kong ibahagi dito yung mga realizations ko throughout my journey and how my experiences led me to craft my personal meaning, the meaning-making exercise that I have with regards to my work. And these are the following realizations. First, ang pinaka na-realize ko is that life is non-linear. Oftentimes, especially kung may mga students dito, we have a dream job, a dream career. So we take a certain course because we believe na pag tinake ko tong kurso na to, I will be able to go and achieve or be a certain role, no? Na if I do step 1, I'll end up with step 10. But my journey allowed me to realize na actually a lot of the things that we plan in mind, especially long term, hindi natin masasabi kung yun ba talaga yung mangyayari. And we may end up doing things or having roles that we never imagined ourselves doing. And for me, I never imagined myself to have an HR role. Okay. The second has to do with this whole idea that there's a difference between the roles that I have, no, the roles, particularly the jobs that I have, and the purpose that I have in terms of my life. Kanina, in the introduction, one of the things you were mentioning was, para kanino ba tayo bumabangon, para saan, bakit ba tayo gumigising sa umaga? And sometimes, we have this idea that kaya tayo gumigising sa umaga kasi we have a certain role to do. No? But one of the things that I realize is that across the different roles that I have, no, in the different specializations that I have, in the different functions that I have, in the different organizations that I was part with, all of these roles presented different opportunities or different avenues or pathways for me to contribute to nation building. So throughout my entire journey, there was one clear objective or purpose, which was to contribute to nation building. But the different roles that I had showed me na iba-iba man yung paraan, isa lang yung pinatutunguhan, which is to contribute to nation building. And another thing that I realized now that I've gone out of government is that contributing to nation building is not limited for people who are in the government. It's not limited for people who are in the development sector, people in the corporate world, people in education, whatever role that we have. As long as we contribute and create value, we're able to contribute in one way or another to nation building. So kaya dun sa description in my introduction earlier, I made it explicit na I'm not just here to serve development professionals, but I'm also here to serve people who are engaged in the enterprises, in the corporate setup. Because I believe in my expanded worldview that contributing to nation building goes beyond the particular company or industry that we're in. And then finally, makikita nyo yung tanong na pabalik-balik kong, paulit-ulit kong binabalikan. No? Dito nga ba ako? Do I belong here? Is this where I am? Is this where I see myself being in the next 10 to 20 years? No? First of all, I wouldn't realize the answer to that question kung hindi ko muna sinubukan. Nagsisimula tayo palagi dun sa actions, dun sa choices that we have in the roles, no? Nagbabaka sakali tayo. Tumataya tayo na, papasok ako dito, hindi ako sigurado, but let's see where this position or this role will take me. And then there, after experiencing the good and the bad, I would reflect on my experience and come to appreciate na ito pala yung mga bagay that I find myself interested in. Ito yung value that I create in this role. This is something that I find joy and meaning in. But that act of reflection only comes about because I acted in the first place. Hindi pwedeng reflection lang tayo without action. Hindi rin pwedeng action lang tayo na walang reflection. It's a combination of action and reflection. This form of praxis that is done in an iterative manner. No? Hindi siya dire-diretso. Minsan talagang hindi natin alam, tumatalon tayo na hindi tayo sigurado saan tayo pupunta. But in the process, we create this meaning. Which leads me to the final realization, no, that ties everything together and is the basis of the title of this talk. No? Which, for me, the process of meaning making in work, ultimately, it's a personal choice and it's my personal choice. No? And for everyone who's here in this webinar, the meaning that you attribute to your personal work, that's not something that I can make for you. That's not something that your parents, your advisor, your mentors, your bosses can make for you. Ultimately, the meaning of your work, no, yung hanap buhay, yung kahulugan ng hanap buhay para sa inyo, kayo yung magdedesisyon yan. Other people can just provide inputs and ask questions that would trigger this action reflection process. So tatandaan natin that meaning making is a personal choice, and because it's a personal choice, that meaning cannot be said to have a right or wrong answer. Kasi yung pagpapakaulugan ko dun sa sarili kong journey that I presented earlier would be very different from how you make meaning of your work, of your life. Because we're coming from different circumstances, we're coming from different situations, we're coming from different family and economic, social, cultural, political backgrounds. And we have a different set of values. So I'm not in a place here, I'm not trying to tell you that this is how you should make meaning for your life and for your work. But I'm just trying to share na for me, this is how I try to make meaning out of my journey. And I hope that these questions, this journey, this story could also prompt you to take on a similar story. And personally, na-realize ko after the past 7+ years or even 10+ years, no, if I take into account yung education ko, that now no, this is a partial and provisional answer. My personal meaning of work has to do with empowering others. And that's why I'm in this role right now, because out of everything that I've been doing, na-realize ko na this is currently where I find the most meaning in, where I find the most joy in. And I'm sharing this photo that we had during our year-end celebration, during our term-end celebration, that the meaning of my life, my work life, is not about me as an individual, but me as as this sort of medium through which I could empower others. At mahalaga dito sa larawan na ito, yung emphasis ng photo na ito is not the vice president, it's not the officials in this room, no. It's actually each and every one in this photo being provided with the circumstances, with an enabling environment to be the best version of themselves. And personally, that's what I find the most joy in. And sa akin ngayon, that's the reason why I took on this consultancy role, this capacity building and HR role, because I find meaning and joy in being able to do that for as many people as I can. So hopefully, this first part of the process allows all of us to think, ano nga ba yung meaning ng sarili kong journey? And once we're able to find the meaning of our journey, I hope that we're able to reframe our relationship with work. For me, my work is something that energizes me. Pag Monday, I don't feel na, ay, Monday na. No? Kailan ba magpa-Friday? Or Monday pa lang, hindi pa ba weekend? Instead, because I have a very clear idea of what work is for me, I find that work actually gives me energy. It energizes me, it makes me excited to go to work, to do work. Kasi nakikita ko yung work ko hindi lang bilang avenue for me na maghanap kita, but work for me is a space for hanap-buhay, for me to find meaning in life. So it energizes me. And I hope that for the people here, in your journey, you'll also be able to find yourself in a situation na, I'm doing this work not just because I want to earn, but also because it energizes me and gives me meaning. And to synthesize yung ating first discussion, I'd like to quote this statement from Stud Sturkel. And here he describes work. For him, work, yung hanap buhay, it's about a search. But it's a search for daily meaning. Yung hanap buhay, it's a search for daily meaning or kahulugan. But also, it's also a search for daily bread or kita. So it's a search for these two things. In addition, work is a search for astonishment, for pagkamangha, rather than torpor. It's not just something na kumaga drains me. Hindi siya source ng pagiging matamlay. But work is a source of astonishment as well. And then finally, work is a sort of life. It's buhay. It's life-giving. And it's not just a Monday to Friday sort of dying. So in the examples, in our first mentee discussion, for the people who were able to say na, I'm able to find meaning, astonishment, and life in the work that I do on a day-to-day basis or in a very recent time, I'm happy for you and I hope that you're able to sustain those types of experiences. For the others here, na baka for you, hindi ko maalala kailan ko huling naramdaman yan or parang never ko pang naramdaman yan, I hope that the next sections of our discussion will enable you to reflect, ano nga ba yung relationship ko with work? What's the current meaning that I attach to it? And is there a way for me to reframe the meaning that I have or that I create vis-a-vis my work? Okay. So, in our second section, I'll be discussing ano nga ba yung mga maaaring meaning or pagpapakahulugan sa ating work, and we'll be using the 5C model. So at this point, I'm inviting everyone to go to Menti and to answer how would you describe your current role. So let me go to Menti. Ayan. So here, I'll be asking you to answer, Okay. For others, you can just refresh yung inyong Menti. Yan. So I'm asking you to rate yung current work nyo. If you describe your current role from 1 to 10, how would you describe it? Okay. And as answers come in, makikita nyo yung small points, these are your individual answers, while the big circle showcases ano yung average, no, sa mga responses natin. So, okay. Check the box. Okay. Sige, so I'll reshare. So please continue on answering the mentee. Okay. Sige. So, for those who responded, earlier nakikita po natin, no, na I asked you to try to describe your current role, no, from 0 to 10 or from 1 to 10. How would you describe your role in terms of being unpleasant to tiresome to pleasant to enjoyable? No? And how would you describe your role in terms of the benefits that you get from it? Is it more intrinsic or internal, or is it more extrinsic and external? So iba-iba yung maaaring answers natin, and we'll find our answers to as belonging to different quadrants. So let me share the slides. Okay. So before I go on to share the to discuss yung 5 C's, can you type in the chat box if we're still okay? So kindly type okay if we're still game. Okay. Yan, sige. Right. Thanks everyone for your responses. So, depende dun sa sagot ninyo kanina in terms of describing your current role, no, yung relationship natin to work could fall under the 5 C's, no. So the first type is what we call chore, no. Chore, parang ano, utos. Kung yung answer natin is mababa, yung rating na binigay natin, we see our work as being unpleasant, tiresome, or monotonous. Parang ito yung mga answers na mas nag-a-appeal sa atin. And at the same time, a lot of the things that we do because it provides us with more extrinsic outcomes. No? We're doing this job because I need to pay the bills. We're doing something because I can't afford to do something else that would, for example, pay something less kasi meron akong pinapakain or kailangan kong buhayin yung sarili ko, yung pamilya ko. No? Even if I don't like what I'm doing, I need to do it because I need the funds. No? If that's the sentiment that we have, our current relationship with our role, with our work, falls under what we call as a chore. It's something na kung meron sana akong pera, if money wasn't an issue, I would be doing something else. Okay? And I'm not sure where most of the people are today, but if we're here, malaki yung chance that we don't have a positive relationship with our work. We would much rather exit from it, or we're so excited na mag-weekend or mag-holiday. The second would be cause. No, cause. Dito, I think for a lot of the people in the development sector, there's a chance that we fall here. No? We're doing our role because we find meaning in it. No? Yung meaning that is more of internal. It's something that resonates with my values. It's something I'm personally interested in. Dito madalas mong maririnig para sa bayan. No? Para kanino ka bumabangon para sa bayan, para maglingkod. However, yung challenge dito sa cause is that oftentimes the role, the particular things or activities that we do are those that we don't necessarily enjoy. We find it as unpleasant, tiresome, and monotonous. So kahit align siya dun sa ating personal values, because the activities or the roles that we do are things that we wouldn't, kung hindi ito yung favorite natin or it's not our cup of tea, we find ourselves na may tendency tayo to be in burnout. Or maybe if we were doing it, no, na paminsan-minsan lang, that would be acceptable. But if we find ourselves doing a lot of things na, teka, hindi, this is not what I signed up for, we may end up in this quadrant. Okay. The next one, it's somewhere along the middle of both axes, no. It's what we call coast, no. Yung sakto lang. No, hindi siya sobrang tiresome, but hindi rin siya sobrang interesting. Hindi siya unpleasant, pero hindi rin siya pleasant. Sakto lang, okay lang. And in terms of outcomes, there's a balance between my intrinsic outcomes, things that give me joy, things that give me growth, and also it has a decent pay, or it creates decent professional learning opportunities. It helps me build decent networks, no. So dito, hindi siya sobrang ganda, pero hindi rin siya sobrang sama. Sakto lang. Next is what we call career. So career, we're in a situation now, we're doing a role that we personally find ourselves enjoying. It's something we're personally interested in. But if you were to describe yung outcomes that it provides us, mas extrinsic siya. Mas nananaig yung extrinsic outcomes. Could be good pay, good benefits, good networks, good opportunities for professional growth, no? But it doesn't hit so much or doesn't align so much with things that are intrinsically important to us, no? But nonetheless, if we're in the career, if our meaning of our work is more in the career, that's still better than it being a cause or a chore. And then finally, pwede siyang calling. So calling, similar to the career, work is seen as something that's inherently pleasant, interesting, and enjoyable. But the outcomes, mas intrinsic siya in nature rather than extrinsic. Ito yung mga tao na pakiramdam nila hindi sila nagtatrabaho or hindi sila napapagod sa trabaho dahil gusto nila yung ginagawa nila, no? This is something that maximizes their strengths, and it's also a source of challenge and value. And it also aligns with their personal values. For some, maaaring hindi ito high-paying. For example, people who take on religious vocations, no? Or people who willingly took on a pay cut in order to do something that personally interests them. No. So it could be a calling. So the 5C model basically presents us with this very simple, no, and relatively intuitive framework for understanding, okay, yung current role that I have, nasaan ba siya? Chore, cause, coast, calling, and career. So in the chat box, I'd like to invite you, no, after we discussed yung different C's in the model, how would you describe your current role? Nasa chore ba siya, cause, coast, career, or calling? Or if you feel na nasa boundary siya nung dalawa, ano yung mga yon? So, okay, kindly type in the chat box. Calling. Wow, daming calling. Okay. Career and calling. Coast. Cause. Okay. Nice. So thankfully, mukhang hindi marami yung nasa chore. Okay. Okay, so sakto, someone shared. Parang nasa chore yung ginagawa ko with a laughing face. One of the things that I'd like to share to you is that maaring ngayon, at this particular moment, what we're doing is in calling and career. But I want to caution you, saan pumapasok yung burnout? Saan pumapasok yung quiet quitting? Saan pumapasok yung explicit quitting? Or saan pumapasok yung office politics? Those factors could actually lead us from one quadrant, from one C to another. Maaring ngayon nasa calling or career ako, But because I got burnt out, napunta ako sa cause until such time na ayoko na talaga, nandun na ako sa chore. And for a lot of people, especially in the early parts of their career, and then makikita mo, teka, hindi, okay naman nung una, bakit parang nag-iiba na yung karanasan ko ngayon, no? Parang ayoko na. Gusto ko na mag-shift ng aking career. And that's a very real experience that we have. No? So, we have to take care, no? Kasi yung tanong natin ngayon, yung tanong ko ngayon, asan kayo right now? No? And it's very possible for us to shift from one quadrant to another, but at the same time, that also presents a possibility for people who are in chore, cost, or even coast mode. It is possible for us to move towards career and calling. At ano yung mga maaari nating gawin? Okay. Yan, from Lou in the chat. If we have no balance, if we have no rest and self-care, tama yan, it's possible for us to move from calling and career to cost and chore. So that's actually burnout. Okay, so thank you for sharing. So what insights can we generate if we apply the 5C model? In this particular section, what we're doing is role mapping. Tinatanong natin, yung current role ko, what C does it currently fall under? And depending on our answer, these are some options or choices or decisions that we can make. First, kung masaya tayo, no, kung nasa calling and career tayo, then let's stay, no? Kumbaga nandun tayo sa positive aspect or sa positive side ng career natin. If, for example, nakikita natin na nandun tayo sa coast or maybe chore, no? Or maybe a cause, one thing that we could do is to negotiate. Maybe we can talk to our boss. Ano ba yung pwede nating gawin to adjust the things that we do so that we don't view it as a Monday to Friday sort of dying and instead convert it into a sort of life, no? A sort of exercise that is life-giving. Or we could also reflect, no? Baka wala ako sa tamang lugar. Maybe it's time for me to have a career shift. No? So if we apply the 5C model and ask what C does my current role fall under, we have three choices. We could either stay, we could either negotiate, or we could shift. And dito pa lang, no, there's already value that we can generate from it. So for the people who are based on your answers, can you type in the chat box, no? Tingin nyo aling choice yung mas okay sa inyo? Is it to stay? Is it to negotiate? Or is it to shift? Maybe it's a combination. Pwede yun. Stay and stay, negotiate, stay and shift. Wow, caps lock, stay. This is true, no? I like one of the things in the chat box. Stay kasi mahirap maghanap ng work. No? And that's true, no? We also have to be very practical. We have to assess, no? Do I have the strength to negotiate? Do I have the capacity to negotiate? Kasi maaaring hindi ko gusto yung work ko, but wala akong mahanap na lilipatan. Or maybe kung lumipat ako, hindi ko rin sure, baka hindi ko rin pala magustuhan yung gagawin ko. So these are very real and very real options. Stay and kung carry bells, then negotiate. No? That's also true. No? So very interesting. I hope na at this point pa lang, we're able to already think about our careers and the things that we could do. Okay. Sige. In our final section, I'd like to introduce one other thing that could help us in terms of deciding what we do with our current work. And here, I'd like to present the second option in terms of applying the 5C framework. So how can we reframe the meaning of work? By identifying activities that relate to our personal calling and career. So earlier, yung question natin, yung current role ko, saang C siya pumapasok? But there's another way of applying the 5C framework. And what I call, this is what I call activity mapping. Kanina, we mapped our role. Ngayon, we will map our activity. And let me go back to my personal story. Kung babalikan ko yung kwento ko, I find that across all steps in my journey, there were specific activities kung saan nahanap ko yung calling and career. And here, kaya I use the term meaning making because I'm not finding meaning as though it were something na parang treasure, no? Nandyan lang siya. Instead, I'm actually actively reinterpreting the meaning of my work. And if I look back, babalikan ko yung journey ko, ano nga ba yung spaces kung saan nahanap ko yung calling and career throughout my journey? Babalikan ko yung pagiging math major ko, na-realize ko yung calling aspect pala doon was I really enjoyed the part wherein I was trying to arrive at this point, the endpoint X, no, this question mark X, based on the givens that were presented to me. So that was something I really found joy in doing. It was intrinsically interesting for me. Extrinsically, no, ano yung value nun? It helped build my computing and my logic skills, which eventually created a lot of professional value as I tried to go on in terms of my career. Okay. In the next role, when I was doing philosophy and development, I found that yung space ng calling doon ay yung part wherein I was always questioning assumptions and values in the givens that were presented to me. Hindi ako tumatanggap ng sitwasyon as though bawal akong magtanong, but I realized na kaya pala interesante yung filosofiya para sa akin kasi mahilig akong magtanong ng mga bagay-bagay and ayokong tanggapin yung binigay sa akin as is. No? I really enjoy asking questions. In terms of my career, my philosophy training developed my ability to do research, to write, to speak, and to synthesize my thoughts. So there was an aspect of calling and career. Here makikita nyo, technically yung mga inaral ko nung college and even in grad school, hindi ko siya directly na-apply sa trabaho ko. Instead, ang na-apply ko is the critical thinking, the writing, and the speaking skills. So this is, kumbaga pag tinanong ako, anong napulot mo na naging philosophy major ka? This is one way of me answering that question. Okay? Now, when I worked in government sa higher ed, ano yung mga natutunan ko? Calling, I found that I'm actually interested in this entire process of design thinking and in developing or creating learning outcomes, both at the classroom setup and in the training setup. In terms of career, this helped me to be first familiar with all of the government processes. It provided me with a space to do policy writing, and it developed my professional network. It built this network of contacts that I'm now able to tap whenever I need something. And then finally, in my work in OVP over the past 5 years, yung role of good governance, I could say that I really found it interesting. No, I'm a data geek. No, I really like creating dashboards, communicating data. So that's one. The second was that I found that I actually enjoy creating spaces for success. Para yung mga kasama ko, no, as an HR practitioner, I'm able to support people to be the best version of themselves. And then finally, I found that I find joy in building strong institutions na hindi nakatali sa isang particular na tao, yung good governance, because we're not kumbaga hindi natin tinataya sa isang particular na tao o personalidad. Instead, we're building institutions, we're building the culture of organizations, and these are cultures, these are practices that will last even when the transition happens. And of course, sa career, this helped me to be a specialist in terms of ISO certification, risk management, and all of the different government frameworks. No? Napakaraming acronyms niyan. And of the past 5 years gave me an opportunity to really do a deep dive in terms of all of these frameworks. And as a consultant, all of the aspects in the career side are now part of my consultancy toolkit, which is what I do to make a living. But at the same time, yung ginagawa ko bilang consultant, bilang resource person, bilang training provider, and bilang learner, all boil down to my personal interest na what I'm doing, everything that I'm doing professionally are things that are valuable to me as a person and they are part of my calling. So now, I don't feel that I'm doing work, but instead I feel like work is a form of play, as something that energizes me, because work is the intersection of my calling and my career. So I'm just as excited for the weekend as I am for the weekday, kasi gusto ko yung ginagawa ko. Okay? And because I'm able to reframe not just the particular role that I'm doing, but the activities, the particular things that I do in each of my role, I now have more options in terms of the decisions that I make. So ano nga ba yung pwede nating gawin? If there are managers, HR, or even staff here that want to reflect, ano nga ba yung pwede kong gawin ngayon? These are some of the choices that we can make. First, we can do a role redesign. No? Syempre, yung work natin, hindi naman 100% gusto natin lahat ng ginagawa natin. But hopefully, no, baka may space for us to redesign our role so that 80% of the things we do on a day-to-day basis are things that maximize our strengths and contribute to our calling, but at the same time, create value for the company, yung career aspect. So we could explore role redesigning. Another option is for us to do a role transfer. And this is something that I did personally when I asked to be transferred from the strategy management office to the human resources role. Pwedeng tayo yung mag-request dito kung nakikita natin na iba talaga yung interest natin. Another thing we can do is to ask to join an ad hoc committee, or maybe the HR or our managers could recommend, no? Baka kaya hindi tayo nag-flourish dun sa role natin kasi sinusubukan nating patakbuhin yung isda, no? Baka kaya pala tayo hindi natin na ma-maximize yung personal abilities natin kasi we're doing something na hindi tayo talaga doon nagbebelong. Maybe if we transfer from one role to another within the same company, we find where it is that we actually belong and flourish in. Okay? Of course, kung tipong hindi may something within our current company, no, baka kahit anong role transfer ko, I just really want to transfer. That's also an option that we could do. No, we're transferring not just our role, but we're transferring from one company to another. Especially, for example, if there is a major transition that happens within the company. For example, a change in leadership, kung nagkaroon ng merger or acquisition, or kung wala talaga tayong choice kasi nagsara yung kumpanya, lalo kung nung COVID. Another thing that we can do is to shift the industry. So for me, majority of my career has been in the academe and in the government. No, before I was nung July, I was thinking, gusto ko pa rin ba dito or do I want to go corporate? Those are valid decisions kasi baka it's time to explore other options. So that's one thing that we could do. And the last thing, no, yung other option na pwede natin gawin is I like what I do, but I don't see myself doing it in one company. So that was my personal decision. I decided to do freelance or consultancy because I want to be able to do what I was doing before, but ayoko na matahi sa isang kumpanya kasi I want to be exposed to more circumstances and I want to go outside of my comfort zone. So right now, no, sa mga options na ito, ano yung mga nakikita niyong options na mag-a-apply sa inyo? Or what are the things that you'd want to explore? Role redesign. Okay, how about the others? Going to the chat, I like what Rachel shared. She finds meaning in life by serving the poor, the sick, and the people by being active in pastoral care while I'm working in the hospital. She found her purpose by serving the people and the sick, and she sees Christ in them. So, napakaganda that you're able to find this balance and this meaning in your work. Okay? Okay, so for the others, ayan, nakikita na natin, no? Napapalawak. Nung una, 3 options lang when we just focused on our particular role. But when we try to reinterpret the meaning of the particular activities that we do, nakikita natin ang dami palang pwedeng gawin. No? Role redesign, may iba nag-iisip na mag-consultancy, industry shift, transfer, okay? For some here, hindi natin alam. And that's perfectly fine because sa totoo lang, hindi talaga natin alam in advance what will work. But this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. It's really action and reflection. Minsan tataya talaga tayo, no? Tatalon tayo na hindi natin sigurado ano yung sagot. Personally, one thing I can share is that this is where mentors come in. This is where people that we trust come in. We consult with them, we get feedback, and then we get recommendations from them. Okay. So sige, so based dun sa mga sagot niyo, I hope na namnamin natin yung mga options natin. And after this webinar, I hope that we could reflect ano nga ba yung pwede natin gawin moving forward so that we could move from more draining from a more draining or negative perception of work to a meaning of work that is more positive and energizing for us. Okay. And one of the things that we can do, this is an activity that we could actually do, is to develop our own personal mission statement. At dito, sinasagot niya yung simpleng tanong, bakit ako gumigising sa umaga? And one thing that you can do, write this in a piece of paper, put it in your desk, or kung work from home kayo, idikit nyo sa harap ng laptop nyo para pag pagod na kayo or na-challenge kayo, babalikan nyo yung answer sa sagot na ito. And personally, yung present mission statement ko is as follows. I wake up in the morning to serve the Filipino people. That's the purpose. How do I do this? By empowering development workers and business professionals. So that's my audience. And how do I do it? I empower them in the manner that I want them to succeed in their work. And from a marketing point of view, I do this by co-creating enjoyable workplaces. So helpful din to in terms of developing our personal branding. So I'm inviting everyone to go to Menti and just try to engage in this exercise of writing your personal mission statement. Bakit ka gumigising sa umaga? Para kanino? The hashtag is optional, but I like everyone to engage in this exercise. And if you have a piece of paper, you can write it there and then post it in your workstation. Okay. And you can send your answers. Okay, in the Menti. So let's go ahead and transfer to our Menti. So for the others, you can also share your personal mission statement in our chat. And so let's look at your answers. You work for your family and your future goals, to redeem yourself by embracing risks, to do more good in the world by committing to excellence and integrity, to be a blessing to others by sharing my learnings to the next generation, for my son. Grabe, ang gaganda po ng ating responses. No? At dito po, ang mahalaga dito is, hindi tayo nagbabasa in order to impose judgment on the responses of other people. Kasi again, work, no? Kaya to personal mission statement kasi it's our personal meaning. No? This is not fixed as well. Pwedeng magbago siya pag nagbago yung circumstances natin sa buhay natin. But by creating our own personal mission statement, this gives us a sense of what our priorities are. Why do we undertake the challenge? Why do we why do we do the things that we do, basically. Okay? So, yan. So, marami pong salamat sa inyong pag-share ng inyong personal mission statement. Kung hindi po natin maisulat right now, okay lang po. Actually, it takes a lot of time to really develop this. And pwede nating namnamin, no? Pwede nating namnamin yung usapan ngayong araw and hopefully be able to build this mission statement even after the webinar. All right. So, at this point, I'd like to conclude our discussion by sharing this simple insight. No, oftentimes we see meaning as an end. No, yung meaning natin parang period, tuldok, tapos na siya. If we do something, this is our meaning, and then yun na siya, no, tapos na siya. I'd like to invite everyone to open ourselves to reimagine what meaning could be, because meaning, no, while it is an end, it is a period, meaning can also be an ellipsis. No? Meaning is not something that is fixed, it is something that is ongoing, and it is a journey that we have. So I'm inviting everyone, as we engage in this act of reflection and meaning making, let's go beyond saying na ito lang yung meaning or kahulugan ng aking trabaho at ng aking buhay, and let's make it a journey. Hindi natin sigurado saan siya pupunta, but that's what also makes it so exciting. Okay, so I hope that my sharing today is able to prompt these reflections. And if you need support, especially for your organization, I would like to get in touch with you. No, so let's journey together in this process of meaning making. And the services that I offer are on HROD, on strategy management, as well as government systems. So maraming salamat po. I'm opening the floor to questions from everyone. So good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. And thank you so much, Kevin, for that very meaningful session this afternoon. I was personally taking notes and kita ko sa mga responses ng ating learners this afternoon that they really, really appreciate what you have shared with us this afternoon. Ayan, ikaw, Joyce, how was the session for you? Parang na-speechless na si Joyce. Hindi na siya nakapagsalita.
Actually, nagno-notes din ako, Gabby, kasi parang sabi ko, OMG, ang dami namang quotable quotes dito. So parang sabi ko, wow. Ganun na lang ako, wow.
Yes, and I'm sure na our learners have a lot of questions in their minds as they have uncovered, di ba? Na parang, ganito pala pwedeng isang way kung paano natin makikita yung meaning sa buhay natin. So, as per usual, let's all head over to Pigeonhole. Bianca will be sharing the link so that you can access our Pigeonhole question and answer board. So you can just go to pigeonhole.at and type the passcode meaning, or pwede nyo ring iscan yung QR code na nakikita nyo sa screen. And of course, easy access, just click on the link in the chat box and makikita natin agad yung mga questions ninyo. And while we're waiting for the questions, I think, Joyce, ang daming messages sa chat box. So maybe we can read some of them.
Yes, actually meron dito nagsabi, from B, sabi niya, nakaka-empower yung mga ganitong talk. So thank you, Sir Kevin. Kasi yes, true, as in parang sobrang parang nakaka-refresh siya, gano'n. So
yes, and makikita, kanina actually may nakita akong question. Tinanong niya, paano daw kung right now hindi pa niya alam kung ano yung makakapagpasaya sa kanya? Ano kaya yung pwede nating ma-share sa learner na yon?
Okay, so that's actually a very good question kasi this is a universal experience. No? Ang interesting sa pagiging tao, hindi natin alam anong mangyari bukas. At ano yung, kumbaga, that uncertainty creates both a sense of excitement but also fear. So one of the things that we could do is to try to reduce that uncertainty. So yung personal experience ko after a very long stint in government, nung July, nagpahinga ako, I wanted to concentrate on myself. But after some time, sabi ko, teka, naubos na yung savings ko, kailangan ko na maghanap ng trabaho. Papasok ba ako sa government? Magko-corporate ba ako? Magtuturo ba ako? And what I did was to talk to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of friends, I talked to a lot of mentors, and I asked for advice. Ano nga ba yung, ano sa tingin nyo yung strengths ko? Ano sa tingin nyo ano, kumbaga kasi we have a certain interpretation of ourselves. So minsan, yung kwento natin, alam lang natin yung kwento natin na tayo yung bida. So it helps to get the perspective of other people so that they could enlighten us and maybe and to highlight things na baka hindi natin nakikita because we're also concentrated in just one perspective. And after talking to all of my mentors, one of the things that I appreciated was they highlighted sa tingin nila ito yung strengths ko. Sa tingin nila, baka dahil matagal ka na sa government, why don't you try doing something else? And maybe your insights would allow you to further develop your personal skills, your network, and the like. So yun yung isang bagay, no? But of course, this takes a leap of faith and a lot of courage kasi you're basically opening yourself up to other people. So suggestion ko is start with people who know you and start with people you trust and talk to people who you know are coming from a good place. Minsan din hindi natin magugustuhan yung feedback nila sa atin. So we have to be prepared to open ourselves up. Kasi minsan baka may feedback sila na ay masakit, baka maging defensive tayo. So we have to be careful to be open to feedback and tandaan natin ako yung humingi nito eh. So kailangan maging bukas tayo.
Yes, thank you. Kev, ano talaga no? It's very action-oriented. Pero related dun sa action na yun, syempre, lahat naman tayo nakakaramdam ng takot. So I think we can go to our first questions. Now, have you encountered fear during shifting courses and careers? And how did you handle that fear?
Yeah. Dito, but dun sa course muna, no, very practical. Yung una kong concern was, scholar kasi ako. So yung una kong concern, kung mag-shift ba ako, mare-retain yung scholarship ko. Kung mag-extend ako, gaano katagal. So, fortunately, my scholarship was retained and hindi ko kinailangan mag-extend ng sobrang tagal. From a financial standpoint, kaya din. No? So, the practical reasons, inassess ko muna, practical ba to, kaya ba? Kasi kung oo, kumbaga, it was just a matter of choice. Or parang, ano ba talagang gusto kong gawin? Pero alam ko, hindi lahat tayo parehas yung circumstances. So, sometimes, no, wala tayong choice at that moment. So, baka gawin natin in the future. Yung fear, simple lang kasi yung yung analysis ko at that time eh. Ayoko na nung ginagawa ko. Parang, ganun lang siya kasimple para sa akin. At muntik akong bumagsak sa ilang subject kasi hindi ko na talaga, ayoko na, sinusuka ko na yung ginagawa ko. Kaya ko siyang gawin, pero ayoko. And no, tinitignan ko yung grades ko dun sa majors ko at yung core subjects ko. Bakit ganun? Ang sipag ko dun sa mga core subjects ko, ang tataas ng grades ko dun. Pero sa majors ko, hindi. Kasi sabi ko, kasi gusto ko yung ginagawa ko. So the only question there is, sige, kung lilipat ako sa ginagawa ko, how can I make sure na may trabaho akong babagsakan in the future? So, since I reframed my mindset, I started asking different questions. So, I hope that helps.
Yes, I think that really, really helps. And ayan, dumadami nga natin ang mga questions natin. We can take the top voted one. I will be shifting from government to private institution. My only reservation is the security of tenure or the sense of stability in the government. How do I know if I'm making the right decision?
To be honest, hindi ko alam if siguro this is a very substantial fear, no? Kasi depende rin asan ka ba sa government ngayon. Are you a permanent staff, no? And is yung lilipatan mo ba in terms of compensation and benefits, is it competitive vis-a-vis your current income? Of course, private companies are exposed to dangers. Maaring magsara. Whereas government, mas secure yung tenure. You also have to take into consideration yung retirement fund. No? GSIS has better retirement benefits compared to SSS. No? As a nature practitioner, ito yung isang consideration, di ba? For me, yung decision ko to go out of government, kasi permanent yung item ko. No? But I decided na lumipat. From a financial point of view, ang consideration ko is, I saved my income before and I invested it elsewhere. So kumbaga, I was, parang alam ko na kasi na lilipat ako. So I had to make sure that I had a passive source of income outside of my salary. So that helped address the financial aspect. No? So maraming options. No? You invest kung saan man, MP2. No? So kailangan mo rin compute. No? Especially for people who are parang aware of fire, no? Or gusto nyo mag-early retirement. No? Kasi yun yung interesting din with our economy right now. No, retirement is not just parang building your fund, hindi lang siya isang lugar hindi lang siya isang pathway. And it's perfectly possible to have other forms of income. Second is, if you are transferring from one industry to another, kailangan lang alam mo kung bakit mo siya ginagawa. Kasi it's a momentous choice and mahirap bumalik. So I think that's one of the challenges. By moving from one place to another, you're effectively moving on and baka hindi mo na mabalikan. So you have to be careful about your decision.
Yes. Isa to sa mga challenges when you're considering what career or ano bang next career move ko. Pero I think it's very important na you emphasize na pera matters.
Yeah.
Kahit pera matters. But ngayon talaga it's important na you're financially literate and alam namin na may mga chances siguro na hindi rin, 'di ba, parang privilege din para sabihin na kaya mo kasi yung iba talaga daily lang yung nila yung sustenance na meron. Pero we recognize that and we are with you on that. And sabi nga ni Kevin, let's consider this a journey where we can all learn and help each other.
And to add, one of the things that I would always recommend, regardless of what industry you're in, always invest in yourself. Kasi yung skills and competencies that you develop by investing in yourself, hindi yun makukuha ng ibang tao kahit saan ka man pumunta. So yun yung mahalaga.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think we still can do at least 2 to 3 more questions. Sure. Joyce, Kevin, is there a question that you think you'd like to answer?
Okay. Sige. So, ano dito yung mga universal experiences, no? So, first, if we're applying whether in government or kung saan man, in any industry, yung advice ko palagi is have a very clear understanding of your personal brand. Sino ka? Hindi lang dahil ito yung posisyon mo, ito yung kurso mo, no, or ito yung background mo, but sino ka bilang tao? Because that's the thing that's going to set you apart from all other applicants. I'm applying not because ito yung background ko, parang may tendency tayo na kailangan natin kunin lahat ng ito para ito yung laman ng CV ko. But tandaan natin, hindi lang tayo yung CV natin. Sa likod ng bawat CV, sa likod ng bawat papel ay isang tao. At tayo bilang tao, may halaga tayo. At what we're trying to do in an application is to showcase na ito yung halaga ko bilang tao at ito yung mako-contribute kong halaga dun sa organisasyon. So that's something that's an advice especially for people who are applying for work or planning to shift in terms of their industry. Yung second question, I think, has to do with office politics.
Is this
yeah. Ang una kong masasabi is, regardless of the organization, office politics exists. And it's tied to being human. What I can advise is to be clear about your personal brand and to be clear about your value. One of the reasons why I was able to achieve yung role ko, no, I got promoted in my work and took on a leadership role despite my age, no. And this is not common in government agencies. Was first, I had good mentors. There were people who were supportive in the company. And I'm very lucky kasi alam ko hindi lahat ganun. Pangalawa, I spent less time worrying about what other people would think. Instead, I spent more time improving myself and delivering value. What I do was not dictated by what other people were doing. Instead, pinapakita ko na araw-araw pumapasok ako kasi gusto kong maglingkod and to contribute to the company. I have no control as to how other people perceive me. What I can control is what I do and my mindset. So focus on the things that you control. And for the things that we can't control, I know it's hard, but we have to really parang set our boundaries na. Hindi ko na control yan. Apektado ko ngayon pero hindi ko tatambayan yung negative emotions kasi alam ko na maraming bagay na makaka-energize ako.
Yes, that's very powerful. And I think yung mga shinare mong tips this afternoon, pag pinanghawakan nila yon at practice nila yon, parang what is in their control is something that they can really work on na. Di ba parang yung personal mission statement na lang, pag tapak mo pa lang sa opisina, yun yung ide-declare mo kahit gaano pa toxic yung kailangan mong gawin for the day. You will deliver value and yun yung makikita ng mga office mates mo. And eventually, di ba, mahahawa rin sila, like your immediate, yung mga nakakasalamuha mo. Ayan, I think we can do one more. Ang dami, Kevin. So maybe you can choose the last question.
Yeah, yung sa tips for hard times. Yeah, the one with the 3 votes sa upper right, upper left. Yeah.
Correct. This one?
Upper left. Sorry. Yeah.
Here.
Okay. The best advice I can give you are 2 things. Una, be kind to yourself. A lot of the times, yung pinaka-kontrabida sa buhay natin, actually nanggagaling sa sarili natin. No? Kaya tayo nahihirapan kasi pinapahirapan natin yung sarili natin. And this is a journey that I had to go through and I'm still going through. And what helps me is a combination of mentors, friends, therapy, and consultations. No? The second is really find people that you can trust and who are coming from a good place. Pag meron kang support system, that would allow you to really weather the storm. At siguro ito rin yung dahilan bakit ako naging HR practitioner. Because I experienced how empowering and helpful it was para sa sarili ko na meron tumutulong sa akin. Kaya ngayon, yung interest ko talaga ay to be in that position so that the things that I've been through, I could be that support system for others. And hopefully, mahanap ng bawat isa yung kanilang sweet spot, no? The intersection of calling and career. Because our organizations, ito yung sabihin ko ultimately, no? Yung trabaho natin doesn't have to be a toxic space. Napaka-fulfilling. No? Ang dami, gaano karami yung oras na dinededicate natin sa trabaho. Pwede yung maging masayang lugar. So why does it have to be such a negative, tiring place when it could be perfectly fun and happy and empowering? Kasi nga, work, hanap buhay na. So, ayun.
Yes, and ayan, we can see in the chat box na talagang na-enlighten sila. And you really inspired our learners this afternoon. May napaiyak ka pa, Sir Kevin. But yes, that's all that we can accommodate this afternoon. Pero we're gonna take note of your questions and malay nyo, magkaroon tayo ng segment where Kevin can answer all these questions. So thank you very much, everyone. So again, Sir Kevin, before we end, alam kong marami ka nang nasabi kanina, pero what are your parting words to our learners this afternoon?
Katulad nung closing statement ko, no, madalas kasi nasa stuck tayo dun sa meaning as a period. Ito na siya. Ito na yung experience ko hanggang dito na lang. Pero yung period pwedeng maging ellipsis. Yung kwento natin, yung nararamdaman natin, choice natin kung tatambayan natin yan or hahayaan natin magpatuloy yung kwento at ano yung paano ko i-reframe yung kwento ko. No? Kasi depende sa perspective natin, maaaring magbago yung kwento natin. Yung kwento ko, yung kwento natin. At yun yung interesting at exciting. So I invite everyone to always undertake this journey of action and reflection. Kasi nga, we're not meaning searching, we're meaning making.
Yes. Pwede bang round of applause and standing ovation online? And I think a lot of our learners this afternoon feel the same way. So thank you so much, Kevin. And to present to you our certificate of appreciation, I hand it over to you, Joyce.
Okay, so I'm gonna read lang yung certificate of appreciation. This certificate is issued to Kevin Rosnera for generously providing their time and expertise as a resource speaker for the webinar Hanap-BUHAY, meaning making through work, held on the 19th of October 2022, signed by our Chief Enabling Officer, John Baluyot, and our Chief Wellbeing Officer, Nikki Vergara. So thank you so much, Sir Kevin.
Thank you so much. And we hope to partner with you in more programs and activities in positive workplaces. Ayan. And also, Sir Kevin also gave his email address. So if you want to engage him in any of the services he mentioned earlier, you are free to do so. Ayan. So may nakita rin akong comment, last na. Parang sabi nila, di ba, very important yung support system. So andito kami in positive workplaces, and we hope na as we provide you with more webinars, with more of our programs and courses, kasama kami sa support system para makapag-invest kayo sa sarili nyo. Ayan. So join us again next week. Ako naman, very nice yung sagot ni Sir Kevin na ang isa nating kailangang alalahanin when facing difficult times is being kind to ourselves. Because, di ba nga, we are our own worst critic. I'm guilty of that. Feeling ko itong dalawang katabi ko rin, si Joyce at si Sir Kevin, yun din yung nangyayari. Kaya next week, pag-usapan natin, i-share namin sa inyo yung kit na pwedeng makatulong para ma-practice natin ang self-compassion at work. Ayan, Joyce, would you like to introduce our course?
Yes, and of course, after helping ourselves, di ba, syempre kailangan din natin mag-lead ng others kasi that's how we make positivity ripple. So, ayan, we have this positive leadership course. So, batch 16 na po siya. If you're interested, you can always enroll sa aming link na provide ni Bianca sa chat box. So yan, in case na interested pa kayo in knowing how to lead others and in knowing how to lead your organizations, ayan, sobrang available po niyan, and it will happen on November. So just before the year ends, di ba? Parang it's a gift to yourself na rin and sa organization niya.
Yes, I agree with that, Joy. So it's a long-standing flagship course na most requested by both government and non-government organizations. Kahit yung private corporate organizations, ito talaga yung course na kinukuha nila. So ngayon, kung mauuna kayo dun sa 10 enrollees, magkakaroon kayo ng 1,000 pesos discount. So you only have to pay 5,999 pesos. And our regular rate is 6,999 pesos. And kung magsasama pa kayo ng mga friends, kung tatlo kayo, may mahihigit pa kayong isa pa. So you can get one slot for free if you enroll ng 3 paid participants. Okay, and yan, Joyce. Ano tong sunod nating...
Ayan, so kung na-enjoy niyo po yung webinar today, you can follow us on Facebook para makita niyo rin yung other webinars namin for this month and yung mga other courses namin na existing. And of course, para makita niyo rin yung mga posts namin like this one, these posts po like why it's okay to fail and overcoming imposter feelings. Baka kasi nakaka-relate kayo. So, ayun, di ba? Baka pwede nyo na rin i-follow yung Facebook account namin.
Yes, patingin sa chat box nga, pakitype nga yung yes kung nagpo-follow na kayo sa Facebook page ng Positive Workplaces.
Ayan, ang dami.
So yung mga hindi pa nagta-type ng yes, punta na kayo sa Facebook and like and follow our page so that you can see our thought leadership posts. Parang kailangan ko yung mindful driving. Hindi pa ako nagdadrive kasi hindi ko mainit yung ulo ko pag nagdadrive ako. Ayan. So we're also on LinkedIn. So Bianca will also share with us our link, the link to our LinkedIn page, so you can also follow us there. And we also post announcements as well as thought leadership posts in our LinkedIn account. Ayan. So bago tayo mag-picture, ipopost na po muna namin ang evaluation form dahil nag-overtime na tayo ng 5 minutes. So again, don't forget to check 10, the title of the form you are answering, your email address, and your name, because we are automating our system. Ayan. So for those who can open their cameras, we'd love to see your lovely faces this afternoon. Ayan, ready sila. So you can also say hi to Sir Kevin. Ayan. Nag-hi sina Joanna, sina Michael ba yung ano nito or Jeffrey? Michael, tama ba? Okay, so we're gonna wait for everyone to open their cameras and we're just